Never count out a Ferrari. Yeah. Should never count out a Ferrari. Today we have a 488 GTB, the evolution of the 458 Italia. I love yellow Ferraris. There's something so unique, even though yellow has become a little bit more common these days on a Ferrari, and they hold their value very well in yellow as well. In fact, sometimes I've seen that, you know, a yellow Ferrari can hold its value about a percentage point better than a red one. I've always been really partial to the 488. It might not have the desired engine. This is obviously a twin turbo V8, 3.9 liter. It makes 660 horsepower, 561 pound-feet of torque, about 8,000 RPM redline. These are pretty fast. The quarter mile, it'll hit mid-tens at about 135 miles per hour. They weren't slow. And in my opinion, I think the 488 looks a little bit better than a 458 as well. They've kind of corrected some of the things that the 458 did wrong. For example, on the 458, the taillights stuck out a little bit higher like this, and they've kind of tucked them down. These little vents right here, I really like that look, especially color contrasted like that. And then one of the most controversial features on the 458 was also the vent that was right around the headlight, and that's gone. Instead, it's been replaced by these vents right here. So in my opinion, the 488 kind of undoes some of the most controversial elements of the 458's design. This, I believe, was already an in-house design, no longer Pininfarina, but it is better for it. I always love that scoop as well. The air intake here, it's a really nice touch. It's a little bit different again. Some people have said it's actually like a 308 throwback. I'm not quite sure if I see it, but I do like how it's split. The interior is finished in Alcantara almost everywhere. It's Alcantara seats, leather. They call this interior combo Tortora. The interior of the 488 is a mixture of great seats, leather, Alcantara, but maybe cheap looking HVAC controls right here. I'm not really a fan. I'm not really a fan of those HVAC controls. This carbon fiber piece right here is where you select reverse, put the car in auto, activate launch control. There's some awkward controls over here as well. And this is a 2018, and it's long been a Ferrari issue where the interiors quickly look outdated. These two screens over here are a little bit on the low res side, considering this is not that old of a car. They're not bad. They're certainly more clear than 599 was, or an FF. Compared to what was available in 2018, for example, like a Huracan or even an R8, this is a step down. Inside, on the steering wheel, you've still got your turn signals right here and right here, which make a lot more sense than the turn signals that the Huracan has, which is really just a button that you kind of flick left or right, and then when you want to cancel it, you push into the button. If you are the type of person who likes to drive their cars with your left hand or your right hand, you constantly have to. It's just really annoying on the Huracan. Here it's a lot more simplified, if not different and a little weird. You've got over here, you've got your damper controls, headlights, windshield washer, and then of course your Manatino switch, which you adjust from sport, race, and then you've got your stability control options over here, and then of course you have your wet mode. Overall though, I've got to say the fit and finish, the material, build quality is very, very nice. If you can get over some of the awkward aesthetics and perhaps a slight, I don't know, detriment as far as the HVAC and how that looks, if you can get over that, this is a really nice place to be. I love the Alcantara, the Tortora interiors, really, really nice. Now, I believe that Ferrari's well aware that their interiors kind of didn't live up to certain expectations, and this is why when you look at the Roma, and you look at the 296 GTB and the SF90, they probably went a little over the top. Like, again, you know, the start-stop button over here, it's now been replaced. It's a sensor, so you don't really get this tactile feeling of firing up your beast. So they probably went a little over the top and missed their mark in some regards. Those interiors are beautiful overall. I think I prefer this interior just a little bit more. Again, despite these awkward little aesthetics over here, I'd rather be in the interior of a 458 or 488 just because it feels a little bit more pure and a little bit more heritage inspired. When we think of supercars, obviously we think of a bit of a sacrifice as far as practicality. So if you're ever concerned about practicality, just note that there is a cup holder over there. There is some space for your phone right here. There's some minor storage underneath this, and then you've got little pockets in the doors that could maybe also put a phone in. Personally, I usually like to keep a microfiber towel in my car, so I'd probably do that. And then, of course, you've got the frunk. Let's take a look. Actually, a lot bigger than I would have. Wow, that's a pleasant surprise. The Huracan that I had earlier driven was really small, very cramped. This is a frunk that's way bigger than I thought it would be. You could definitely go for a weekend or maybe even more. You could definitely spend some time living out of this trunk if you had to. Luggage-wise, probably 2 carry-ons could fit in there. And it's really tall too. This goes really deep down. And you've got the specs right here. If you want, you could pause the video right here. Take a look at these specs. Overall, this seems pretty practical. Now, we looked at the frunk and we looked at these door pockets. What about this? Let's look at the glove box. Surprisingly, more room than I thought. Now, my hands aren't exactly small, and there's a decent amount of room in here. That's very cavernous, actually. After driving the Huracan, I had mentioned that that can probably hold a few napkins, but this glove box is pretty big. So overall, I'm finding the 488's interior to be more spacious than I thought and more practical than I thought as well. Now, I had mentioned earlier build quality. I do find that interior to be pretty impressive, and there's some really nice build quality traits. What I always love to see in exotic cars is how well do the doors close. Now, this is something that people like to look at in an S-Class, for example, or 7 Series. But exotic cars are often overlooked, and this closes really well. But of course, the heart and soul of any Ferrari is the engine. This is the 3.9 liter V8, and this 3.9 was actually shared with a handful of other Ferraris, including that right there, and some Maseratis, which were not flat plane, they were cross plane on the Maseratis, and then Alfa Romeo got a derivative, which was a V6. But this V8 here, as I had mentioned earlier, 660 horsepower, terrific performance, 135 mile per hour trap speeds if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Mid-10s in the quarter mile. It's mounted very low. And in fact, after this, the F8 came out and the SF90 came out, those got even lower. So the center of gravity on these cars is really impressive. Only Ferrari knows how to package a car this well. All right, now we're gonna take this out for a little drive. I gotta say, so far, for the 15 feet that I've driven it, we are in race mode. The AC controls, granted, a little plain, are actually very easy to use. Very, very easy to use. This car is loud. First impression, it's a lot of noise. I thought it'd be a lot quieter than this. As far as I know, that there is, I believe this car has a titanium exhaust option, so it really, whoa, yeah, this thing's fast. beautiful suspension. You know, the 296 that I drove, that Assetto Fiorano package in race was so firm. It was so stiff. It was really like unbearable. This is quite the opposite. I'm just adjusting my mirrors here. I'm not paranoid about someone following me or anything, but I love the steering wheel. Seats are so comfortable. I can actually feel like I can daily drive this as well. You know, I don't have a problem with daily driving supercars. I think modern day supercars are not as compromised as they once were. You know, and by that I mean the Countach, for example, or a Diablo. They were very, very compromised cars back in the day. You know, whether it was headspace or headroom, rough ride, reliability. There was a lot of drawbacks to driving a supercar from 3 decades ago, maybe even 2 decades ago, every day. It was really, really hard to do. Supercars from 20 years ago, they had Formula One, for example, the Ferraris, they had a Formula One transmission, and that was a single clutch, just a rough transmission, and this doesn't. This is obviously a 7-speed dual clutch. Oh yes. Oh yes. Yep. The way it shifts. I love a dual clutch transmission that doesn't try to mask the fact that it's a dual clutch transmission. It wants you to feel that engagement. Every time a gear clicks, you really want to I like getting kicked in the back of my head, honestly, I really do. I want to feel that shift. Some cars these days with a DCT, they soften that impact considerably. And it kind of takes away from the experience of being in a car that's got a lot of horsepower and a very advanced transmission, where you don't feel this, you don't feel the shifts. It almost feels like you're driving a CVT. This car moves. You know, it's incredible that between this, the F8, and now the 296, that we've come so far in performance that, you know, a car that did 135 miles per hour, its successors improved considerably. And now the V6 version, the successor to this, and the F8, can do a quarter mile at close to 150. Where has the time gone? But I would probably, I'd still take this. I'd still take maybe this or an F8. It doesn't have the noise of the 458, but it's still plenty loud. It's plenty loud. And yeah, this exhaust did quiet down. So this titanium optioned exhaust, it's got some anger to it. Last time I was here on this road, there's a lot of tree branches all of a sudden. I don't know what happened in the past couple of hours. The truck must have driven through here and knocked down a whole bunch of tree branches off of these trees. I'm a lot more impressed with the 488 than I thought I would be. Kind of went into this driving experience with, dare I say it, lower expectations, but you should never count out a Ferrari. Yeah. Should never count out a Ferrari. You know, it's the same thing with the 296. Went driving that car with lowered expectations, came out blown away. And I think that's what makes Ferrari, is they know they're gonna have people who will criticize a departure of sorts from the norm. And I think they find a way to kind of pull those people, such as myself, back in. Certainly with this car, they've reeled me back in. I know a handful of people that have 488s, and they talk a lot about how much they love the car, and I just politely nod because my initial reaction wants to be, yeah, but it's no 458, and I think that's not fair. I really think that I'm not being fair, because I think this is every bit as good, and in many respects better, because they improved the suspension on this car. Wow. And that's the note on which I'm going to end this review. The 488 GTB has received a lot of undeserved flack for being the first mid-engine Ferrari to go turbocharged since the F40, and its resale values have shown that. Prices are within throwing distance of an older 458. A 2015 Italia averages around $270 in today's market, whereas a 2018 488 like this one is around $285. It may not have the wail of the 458, but Ferrari's improved so much over its predecessor that it is arguably the better car and a very suitable daily driven supercar. Small interior quirks aside, it's comfortable, it's incredibly quick, it's beautiful, it has practicality, and it can still tear up a track.